Every day, more than 20 million barrels of oil and a fifth of the world's liquefied natural gas pass through this corridor, making it the most vulnerable choke point on the planet. Welcome to the edge of the world, where geography dictates destiny and peace. Before we delve into the dark mechanisms of global power, remember to subscribe to the channel and join us as we explore why this region is the world's most dangerous destination. The Strait of Hormuz is the throat of the global energy market, a narrow passage that connects the Persian Gulf to the Gulf of Oman and the open Arabian Sea. To the north, the high, rugged mountains of Iran stand as a silent witness to the passage of massive steel giants. To the south lies the Musandam Peninsula, an exclave of Oman that juts out like a jagged tooth into the turquoise water. This geography creates a natural bottleneck, a geographic coincidence that has dictated the rise and fall of empires for thousands of years. It is a place where the margin for error is measured in yards, even though the consequences of a mistake are measured in trillions of dollars. When we speak of 24 miles, it is easy to forget how small that distance truly is in the context of the vast ocean. If you stood on the cliffs of Musandam on a clear day, you could almost see the Iranian coastline shimmering across the horizon. Within this narrow span, the deepwater channels used by tankers are even tighter, constrained by shallow shoals and underwater hazards. The world's largest vessels, the very large crude carriers, move through these waters with the grace of prehistoric beasts, restricted to lanes only 2 miles wide. This is not just a body of water, but a high-stakes obstacle course where a single mechanical failure or a stray mine could halt the movement of the global economy. The sheer volume of energy flowing through this artery is difficult for the human mind to fully comprehend. Imagine 1/4 of all seaborne oil on Earth passing through a single doorway every 24 hours. This oil powers the factories of China, the transportation networks of India, and the massive industrial heart of Japan. For these Asian giants, the Strait of Hormuz is not a distant geographic curiosity, but a survival necessity that keeps their societies from collapsing into chaos. Even for Europe and the Americas, which have sought to diversify their energy sources, the price of every gallon of fuel is tethered to the stability of this water. History has carved the name of this place into the stone of human memory, though its origins remain a subject of scholarly debate. Some historians believe the name Hormuz is a tribute to Ahura Mazda, the supreme deity of Zoroastrianism, representing the light of wisdom and creation. Others argue the name is more practical, derived from local terms for a place of dates, or perhaps the ancient Greek word for a sheltered harbor. Regardless of its etymology, the Kingdom of Hormuz once ruled this gateway as a sovereign power, commanding the flow of silk, spices, and gold between the East and the West. It was a hub of cosmopolitan trade where the wealth of the world was taxed and traded long before the first drop of oil was ever extracted. To manage the chaotic flow of modern commerce, the world has imposed a strict set of rules known as the Traffic Separation Scheme. These are the invisible highways of the sea, where ships must follow designated 2-mile-wide lanes to avoid catastrophic collisions. A 2-mile buffer zone, a strip of no man's land in the water, separates the incoming and outgoing traffic to ensure that these giants never meet face to face. Despite these rules, the strait is a place of constant tension, as warships from various nations shadow the commercial tankers. This is a realm where international maritime law is tested every day, as nations claim sovereign rights over waters that the rest of the world considers an international commons. The legal reality of the strait is a complex web of overlapping claims and historical grievances. Both Iran and Oman claim territorial waters that extend 12 nautical miles from their respective shores, which technically covers the entire width of the passage. Under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, foreign vessels have the right of transit passage, meaning they can move through as long as they remain continuous and expeditious. However, Iran has not ratified this convention in its entirety, leading to a legal gray zone where the definitions of peace and provocation are often blurred. This ambiguity allows for a shadow game of cat and mouse, where every patrol boat and submarine is a piece on a much larger geopolitical chessboard. The history of conflict in these waters is a sobering reminder of how quickly the world can descend into violence. During the Iran-Iraq War in the 1980s, the conflict spilled into the sea in what became known as the Tanker War. Both sides targeted commercial vessels, attempting to starve their opponent's economy by cutting off their ability to export oil. These were years of fire and iron, where the blue waters were stained with oil and the debris of merchant ships. The international community watched in horror as the lifeblood of the global economy was spilled in a war of attrition that seemed to have no end. In the year 1988, the tension reached a boiling point during Operation Praying Mantis. This was a massive naval engagement launched by the United States after a mine nearly sank one of its guided missile frigates. In a single day of intense combat, the world saw the largest surface-to-surface naval battle since the Second World War. The exchange of missiles and gunfire served as a stark demonstration of how a regional dispute could instantly escalate into a major international military clash. It proved that the Strait of Hormuz was a place where the world's superpowers were willing to shed blood to maintain the flow of energy. Tragedy followed the violence of war in a way that the world would never forget. On July 3, 1988, a surface-to-air missile fired by a United States Navy cruiser accidentally struck Iran Air Flight 655. 290 civilians, including 66 children, lost their lives in a matter of seconds over the waters of the strait. This catastrophe remains a deep scar in the collective memory of the region, fueling decades of mistrust and resentment. It serves as a haunting lesson on the high cost of militarization in such a confined and volatile space, where human error can lead to irreversible loss. Even in times that are technically considered peaceful, the strait remains a theater of constant friction and near misses. Iranian fast attack boats often buzz around massive Western warships, testing their defenses and their patience in a high-stakes game of nerves. Seizures of tankers by various factions occur with alarming frequency, often as a form of diplomatic leverage or retaliation for international sanctions. These incidents are reminders that the order of the strait is not maintained by law alone, but by a delicate and often terrifying balance of power. Every collision, every detention, and every radio warning is a pulse in the fluctuating heart of global security. For decades, the threat of closing the Strait of Hormuz has been the ultimate trump card in Iranian foreign policy. The logic of this threat is rooted in a brutal form of realism. If their own oil cannot reach the market due to sanctions, then no one's oil shall reach the market. This is the concept of a suicide squeeze, where a nation is willing to damage its own interests to ensure the destruction of its enemies. Closing the strait would be an act of economic war that would cause global oil prices to double or triple overnight. It would trigger a global recession, collapse stock markets, and potentially lead to widespread social unrest in energy-dependent nations. However, the reality of closing the strait is far more complicated than simple rhetoric suggests. Iran itself relies on the passage for its own imports of refined gasoline, food, and medicine, as well as its own primary source of income. A total closure would effectively blockade their own nation, leading to internal collapse and potentially inviting a devastating military response from a global coalition. This makes the threat of closure a classic example of deterrence, a weapon that is most effective when it is never actually used. It is a sword of Damocles hanging over the world, held by a thread of mutual interest and the fear of total escalation. The years 2025 and 2026 marked a period of unprecedented escalation in this long-standing drama. During the 2026 Strait of Hormuz crisis, the world came the closest it had ever been to a total shutdown. Intelligence reports began to circulate about the deployment of advanced stealth mines that could bypass standard minesweeping technology. Insurance companies, sensing the imminent danger, raised their rates to such astronomical levels that many shipping companies refused to enter the Gulf. The cost of a single voyage became so expensive that the economic impact was felt at gas stations and in grocery stores across the globe. As the crisis deepened in 2026, the diplomatic language of the past was replaced by the cold hard facts of military mobilization. Iran officially declared parts of the strait closed for military exercises, effectively daring the international community to challenge their sovereignty. Some merchant captains, fearful of being caught in a crossfire, turned their ships around, while others were escorted by massive naval armadas. The world watched through satellite feeds and breaking news reports as the global economy was held hostage by a narrow strip of water. It was a moment of clarity that revealed just how fragile our modern, interconnected civilization truly is. In the wake of such crises, the world always asks the same question: are there any alternatives? There are indeed pipelines that run across Saudi Arabia to the Red Sea and through the United Arab Emirates to the Gulf of Oman. These pipelines are designed to bypass the strait, providing a safety valve for at least a portion of the regional oil output. Yet, these terrestrial routes can only carry a fraction of the total volume that moves by ship through the water. Furthermore, liquefied natural gas, which is essential for the power grids of many nations, has no alternative pipeline route and must pass through the strait. The dependence on this single choke point is a structural vulnerability that cannot be easily solved by technology or engineering. Building enough pipeline capacity to replace the strait would take decades and cost hundreds of billions of dollars, with no guarantee of safety from land-based attacks. This means that for the foreseeable future, the world is locked into a relationship with the Strait of Hormuz that is as intimate as it is dangerous. We are all passengers on the tankers that navigate those narrow lanes, whether we realize it or not. Our comfort, our mobility, and our security are all tethered to the stability of a place most of us will never visit. The Strait of Hormuz is more than just a shipping lane. It is a profound intersection of geography, politics, and the raw pursuit of power. It is a place where the ancient past meets the high-tech future, where Zoroastrian legends are whispered over the hum of nuclear-powered engines. The powerful nations of the world patrol these waters not out of a sense of adventure, but out of a desperate need to protect the status quo. Global markets react to every ripple in these waters, with traders in London and New York hanging on every word from a commander in the Gulf. This is the ultimate pressure point of the human race, a spot where a single spark could ignite a global conflagration. As we look at the state of the world today, the balance in the strait remains as fragile as ever. The tension beneath the surface never truly disappears. It only ebbs and flows like the tides that rush through the Musandam fjords. The peace we enjoy is a product of a constant, exhausting effort to prevent a single miscalculation from spiraling out of control. It is a reminder that our modern world is built on a foundation of precarious stability, supported by the invisible labor of sailors and the cold calculations of strategists. We live in an age of giants, but those giants are all squeezed through a tiny needle's eye in the Persian Gulf. Story of the Strait of Hormuz is a story about the limits of human control. We have mapped the stars and split the atom, yet we remain beholden to the shape of the land and the depth of the sea. We are reminded that no matter how much we evolve, our civilization is still grounded in the physical reality of our planet's geography. The strait is a mirror that reflects our deepest fears and our most vital needs, showing us that we are all interconnected in ways we often fail to appreciate. To ignore the significance of this place is to ignore the very mechanics of our existence in the 21st century. The Strait of Hormuz remains open today, a silent witness to the passage of history and the flow of energy. But the question is not whether it will remain open, but how long we can maintain the balance before the next crisis arrives. Will we find a way to move beyond our dependence on such a fragile artery, or will we remain its prisoner forever? If this journey into the heart of global power has challenged your perspective, I encourage you to share your thoughts in the comments below. Do you believe the world can ever truly move past its dependence on the Strait of Hormuz, or are we destined to remain at its mercy? Your insights help us build a deeper understanding of the complex world we share. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the stories that shape our reality. Together, we can explore the hidden forces that drive the world.